This is Leisha Holmes, and I'm your host on the Recruiters Recruitment Podcast. And I am so excited to welcome to you, our audience today, somebody that I've had the absolute pleasure to get to know both virtually, but also in real life. She has sat at two of my workshops, I believe.
Yes.
We were connected by the incredible Alison Humphreys, who is my co-founder at Women in Recruitment Leadership. And this next guest is a member of that community. So I can't wait for you to get to know her brilliant sense of humour, but also the slightly different take that she has on the recruitment industry because of her background. So without further ado, please welcome Kath Reynolds, who is the Finance Director and co-founder of Balance Recruitment. Welcome to you today. How are you?
Hi, Leisha. I'm great. How are you? I've had 4 days of Easter rest, so I'm good and raring to go.
I have to say that if you were listening last week to Donna Owen, she also alluded to the fact that we're recording this on the Tuesday after our 4-day Easter break. And I think I'm going to have to do this in future because everybody's been quite chilled. Everybody's felt quite relaxed and chatty because we've all had 4 whole days just to do what we please. And we're not all angst and mid.
Yes, we're not mid-stress yet, so it's all good.
There's definitely a bit of advice there to anyone who's looking to do something. Definitely do it the day after a bank holiday. So I know who you are and I know what to do, but there'll be plenty of people that don't. So just give us a potted history of yourself, your career and your business as well.
Right. So I've been in a finance role for 35 years and I've been in a recruitment finance role for 25 years.
Wow.
My first recruitment finance role was for Robert Walters, and I was the head of their Sydney office and 2 New Zealand offices.
Wow.
And Leisha, I have to say, that was in 2000, and I fell in love with recruitment. And that's quite unusual coming from apparently a numbers person, but I'm QBE, so I've trained myself 35 years. That's why I set up my own business, because I was kind of sick of proving myself over and over again that I could do the job, and a lot better obviously sometimes than someone who was qualified. But I'm just hands-on, always have been, love dealing with the sales side of the business, and the numbers, and I love just when it works together, it's awesome, and that's recruitment.
And we were just talking off camera, weren't we, that very often, especially on podcasts like this, where we're focusing on leadership and we're trying to create best practice tools for people who want to develop themselves, we often just focus on that funnel of sales and possibly marketing and talking about personal brand. But we very often forget that what underpins all of that is a really strong sense of the numbers. And I don't
It's the numbers.
KPIs, it's the numbers, because without the numbers, you've got nothing.
No, and I'm going to sound terribly excited, because when I do talk numbers, I do get excited. But it's so important that the leaders, and I think I told you Alison Humphrey posted something last week about leaders needing to know their numbers, and often recruitment leaders will say it's not their bag or it's not their, and that's because a lot of recruitment leaders are recruiters.
Yep.
So I get, like, it isn't your suit, and you probably wouldn't be as good at recruitment if you dealt into numbers as well. But it's acknowledging how important they are and making sure you align yourself with someone who does know the numbers.
Yeah.
Not just, it could be internally within your own firm or external partner. But I've worked out that the key here is not only finding the right partner for you, but that person, that finance person, can explain the numbers, right? That's so important, because you don't want just a reporting pack and someone going, oh, look at this is what you've done last year. Like, I'm not being funny. Last year's done. So let's talk about what we're doing today, what we're doing tomorrow. These big reporting packs, I think, scare people, and they go, oh, those numbers were, I just want to know the bottom line. What's the profit? Okay, what do we do this year? What's the budget? That's not running a business.
No.
So if you get into the number, if you're not scared of the numbers, then let them work side by side, and numbers often form the strategy, the sales strategy. I used to run all the sales meetings at Balance when we had bigger teams and everything, because numbers can indicate things that potentially a number of BD calls just won't indicate.
Yeah, of course.
Right?
The way I see it, it's like this, my brain's going into analogy mode, and I don't know why. Maybe it's because I am now officially 4 months sugar-free, but I'm thinking of baking a cake. And so typically recruiters are the master chefs, they want to create something absolutely beautiful that you put in a bakery window. But
Yeah.
actually, if you're not getting your dimensions and your ingredients absolutely to the nth degree on the gram, we all know
Oh my
that
God.
if you put too much sugar in, you're going to end up with a flat cake. If you overbeat your eggs or put them in at the wrong room temperature, so i.e., if you're not following the letters and the numbers, you're going to create
Yeah.
something that is not the perfect bake. And I think genuinely, and I've often called myself on this very podcast, I am inverted commas a sales girl, but actually very early on in my recruitment leadership career, when I moved into my very first leadership role, and I look back now and realize I'm going to shout out to Paul Farrer here, because I think he's actually retired now, but he was the chairman of Fee Farrer Jones, which became Aspire Group, which still exists to this day. He was really, I think now looking at it, quite innovative in training all his leaders and future leaders in running P&Ls within their small teams, and then encouraging those recruiters to run their desks like small P&Ls. So I had a team of three. There was me and three, and we each knew our break-even point. We each knew what we would do to achieve this much profit. And in that office, our ratios were phenomenal. Our
Right.
profit margin was phenomenal, and we would often make more profit than the whole London team put together because we were managing it that. And I've often mused, and I said this to you off camera, that if we were to press Control Alt Delete on the recruitment industry and go right back to day one, where recruitment isn't this kind of, we need salespeople that are happy to phone bash,
Right.
do all the other things, and actually running each recruitment desk as a P&L with responsibility to that recruiter for what their actual margins are, what their costs are, what each part of the process, stripping it down into ratios, because that's what matters. It's the ratios that matter. I think we'd have less recruiters, but I think we'd be perceived so much better by external people. I mean, what do you
Oh,
think, Kath?
because you're mini business, yeah, each running your own business effectively, but it has to come from the top.
Yep.
And so the leadership have to get on board. However top level you are, it all has to flow down, and there has to be transparency the whole way. And
Mm.
I think in the past, lack of transparency has come with lack of knowledge or fear of showing too much. But actually, if you give people ownership of their own debt, I'm even going to Leisha to say ownership of each individual recruiter is their own mini business, each
Yes.
person, right? So
Yes.
even just let's even forget P&L, just talk about the top line revenue, talk about the line that everyone talks about, sales, the
Yep.
figures that's on the board, right?
Yep.
That in itself, one placement, if you break one placement down, say it's talking perm recruitment, and you go, right, what's the lifespan of your one placement? Starting from accepting the vacancy, right, to working it through and then going, right, then that's your pipeline. Then it becomes a work in progress WIP that can get accounted for. Then it's a debtor. Then it's cash in bank. Then only once the rebate period expires is it true working capital, right? So that from the beginning to end can be 9 months.
Mm-hmm.
Your whole aim should be reducing that lifespan because we want the cash in as quick as possible,
Absolutely.
profitability up high. And if you explain the little tweaks that could happen along the way, like the let's all sell at this percentage margin, or let's agree if you can't increase your margins, can we reduce payment terms? Can we get that happening sooner? If
Yeah.
the recruiters feel involved, not just, oh, placements on the board, bells rung, singing fish, go for your life, let's go for beers. That's what it used to
Yeah.
be. It's a long way off actually
It
celebrating,
really is. It,
right? And I
it,
think most companies now pay recruiters commission on paid invoices and whatever, um, hopefully. But if
mm,
they're involved with the back office team, they'd work together as a team, and it doesn't have to be, oh, hold on, my commissions. If they were incentivized and went, look, if you reduce your days, even with that one client, by 30 to 25, just by having a better call with them, or a mate, don't
yeah.
suppose you could do me a favor,
Yeah.
right? Then that tweaks if you're getting invoice factoring, say, for example. That's 5 days less of a
Absolutely.
charge. It's
Agreed.
all it's all bottom line increasing, right? And then there's a bigger pot. And then you say, and these incentive schemes can be devised so easy. It doesn't have to be, official share up. It doesn't have to be legal, going to lawyers or whatever to get it done. Just whatever your firm does, the type of recruitment, where is it constant that you go, oh, that's not working too well, or credit control is always complaining about that. You shouldn't be us and them.
It's
Leadership and each consultant should be a team.
on the same
Back
page.
office, recruiters, everyone.
Absolutely. But I think that goes back to, I think going back a step, if I'm thinking about that scenario you've just described, if you're hiring in recruiters, you should be hiring in recruiters and encouraging them to see their business in that way, because they can then have the greatest impact to the back office in terms of credit control. For example, when I place, because I do place a lot of people who are still billing leaders, but I might encourage them to, in terms of making a bigger impact for my client, or if I'm helping them in a joint venture to found their own business, agreeing shorter payment terms and shorter rebates for a discounted rate. For the first placement, I will work out X% less than my normal rate, but I need you to pay me in 7 days and the rebate is halved. Win-win for you, but obviously
Exactly.
the client's going, well, they're giving me a 25% discount, great. But you are getting the cash in quicker, and that's then capital. But it's having these conversations. Do you know, just going back to something that you just said before, that do you know how many clients I ask, what's their break-even point? They don't know. And can they explain their commission structure to me? And they can't. And for me, that's the biggest turn off to me potentially partnering them as a rec to rec. And this is where I think I add a lot of value in having a conversation, what you've just been alluding to, that, it should be a holistic approach. It's like, oh, well, we've got an accountant that does that. It's like, no. If I need an accountant to explain your commission scheme to me, there ain't no recruiter in the world that's going to understand how they're going to make money for you and for themselves.
Yes. And as I say, it's not how it shouldn't be like. Just sometimes it's just perceived that numbers is it's the boring bit, or it's they're always negative, meaning it's pessimistic, because an accountant will come out and give a realistic maybe budget that isn't as optimistic as the salespeople. But if you're just saying, actually, if you do this and we do this together, we're all winning and everyone's happy. Your staff retention is at its
Peak.
highest it's ever been, right? We had, back in the day when we had a few more people on board, our staff 7, 8, 9, 10 years. Like they were all involved because we had these little schemes that it was called the director's bonus pot scheme, and all these little things were factored. New client would add your points, selling it above our rate would go, invoice on offer. The support team £500 less cost saving on something else. Debtor days being reduced, but it was also then length of service would add one, because then you've got loyalty coming in. If you'd ever been nominated Balance Member of the Year, you got 5 more points because that means you're a team player,
Yeah.
because everyone voted for you. Like, so it just, if everyone it feels a sense of belonging, everyone feels they're heard. There's no, that's back office,
That's
it's
their
front
job.
office stuff. There's no
I think
divide.
it's ensuring, because like you say, for a lot of companies, particularly, over the last couple of years, companies have had to strip back on who they
Yeah.
actually employ and who they use, whether it's fractional or whether it's, I mean, I have 2 accountants, one who does all my VAT, one who does all the payroll and end of year accounts. And I have to say, they are, because I've got 2 of them, I've got 2 sets of opinions, 2 lots of it. I mean, they've both got at least 25 years each. The amount of experience I'm buying in, and I'm a small business, there's only 4 of us, but I see their value, their opinion. They advise me on things like profit share, and I think that any founder or recruitment leader listening, if this is not your expertise area, then that's where you do need, like you said at the start of your intro, if it's not something that you're interested to elevate your learning on, you bring in that expert, and it doesn't need
Yeah.
to cost a lot of money to do that. I'm very conscious. What would you, I'm going to really throw you out here in terms of, let's see what you say. What would you say? And I know we did this in the workshop in the last Women in Recruitment Leadership event in January. What would you say the best commission scheme for a recruiter should be? And let's stick with the 360. So somebody that's, winning clients and then delivering the candidates to the vacancies. What do you think the right commission scheme should be for perm and then for contract?
Well, I'm only dealing with perm at the moment because,
Okay.
but it for us anyway. And I actually, honestly, Lisa, in 25 years, I've never experienced something where I haven't overpaid at some point. And I
Okay.
have worked a lot of commission schemes, not just, obviously, I've worked 5 different recruitment firms, varying sizes. I pay quarterly, which I know you don't think is ideal, but month. So this is where, so we pay quarterly and we pay on paid.
Yep.
And it's threshold, the quarterly is threshold driven. We actually pay very well, significantly higher than market rate. And then we have an annual override, which I like, because then it gives a little bit of
for consistency.
inconsistent billing.
Yeah.
However, I think the best sort of scheme would be, and I would do this with, if hopefully when we get more consultants on, is having a little bit of an option and saying, if you'd rather the monthly, because of course, if you've got monthly, that's your cash out, isn't it? Your cash is out sooner, blah, blah, blah. You maybe tweak that you get a slightly higher commish if you go up for the quarterly.
Yep.
Then you get a tweak if, all your invoices have been paid. Not obviously we pay on paid invoices, but have they all been paid within their terms?
And are they out of rebate?
Right. So then it's only tweaks, isn't it? But then they're so focused, so we're now talking about commission schemes involving this, what I was calling the end of the big pot sort of rainbow thing. Yeah, do it monthly, quarterly. Get those tweaks. They only have to be little percentages because at the end of the day, you want the bigger bottom line, right? But if it's paying on achieving that, why not do it gradually throughout the year? You can still have your annual override, can't you? And go, actually, we blew it out of the water.
Yeah, I agree totally. And I think that I did, I'm very, very candid, by the way, in my day job as a rep to rec, in that if people are asking for my opinion on their specific commission schemes, incentives, whatever it might be, decision-making process, I'll always offer I would like to think, over a quarter of a century sort of valued opinion on it.
Yes.
But it has to work for your market. It has to work for your business. It should always be paid after the client paid. We don't want to be getting into, legal wranglings and actually the client's not paid. And to me, it isn't a fee until after rebate. That ain't to spend. And maybe that's because I've done it for myself for so long, nearly 20 years. But I think it's the wrong mindset. And that, going back to the start of this conversation, that if you're creating your own mini business owners as running their own business as a desk, then they won't want to be paid out until they've passed their rebate and their probation, because I think it's about creating value. And I think that's really, I've only known in 20 years, I've probably known a handful of companies that have done what you've just suggested, which is they actually have, it's not on an individual basis. It's, we have 2 schemes. You choose when you start. You can renegotiate at the end of every 2 years. And every 2 years, people very often tend to stick with what they're already on because you become used to it. Maybe me as a dividend shareholder, I just know I have to pay myself quarterly because that's how you do it. But would that suit a lot of people? Possibly not. But for someone starting out, I mean, it's probably going to be 2 or 3 months anyway before they're billing. So actually, you almost get yourself into that, well, I'd rather be earning a percentage more on what I'm billing than just paying me monthly.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if you consistently bill anyway each quarter, you know what you're going to be earning. Yeah. So it's not that hard to budget and that sort of thing. But also there, you can still have this overriding thing at the end of the year that goes, well, actually, if you also achieve you can just do a percentages of profit that everyone's invested then.
Yeah, totally agree.
The individuals are invested, the company's winning. You're not paying to recruit more people. Training, you can have training done internally. So whether or not you have your own support hired internally, maybe not. But the partner you're partnering with, your accountant or whatever, if they came in, did a little mini day session and whatever, and that's where your training happens. And then you go, oh, actually, maybe we stop on the AI little gold magpie purchase we wanted to do because apparently that makes our, because the filtering of candidates is quicker. But is that getting you more money, or are you still getting money at the less efficient way of getting that money?
Yeah, no,
Right?
yeah,
Tweak
yeah,
first.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's actually very refreshing, and I think I think the reason that salespeople generally tend to get kind of I guess put off by having these sorts of conversations is because we are not experts at it, but I think it underpins every decision that we make, whether somebody's a valid, whether it's a valid client to actually fill from a commercial point of view, like you say, that time to hire. How often
Yeah.
do people actually use data? Seem to be talking about data a lot in recent episodes, but using data ourselves and understanding the power of then negotiating higher fees by showing the ratios. If I know that with one client, I've put forward 10 candidates in a year, we're low volume, let's say 10 candidates in a year, 8 get to final stage, 6 get to offer, 5 accept and are still there after a year. That's a 1 in 2
Yeah.
are,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
are successful in my process. There is no way I'm not going to be in a position the following year when I'm saying, look, I am actually shifting our fees. We're having to, like everyone else, look at the cost of everything. They're not going to argue the value that they get from me. Or if I'm positioning it with the direct competitor, for example, saying, well, look, I've placed, the last 5 people, blah, 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 blah. And I think it's talking in those numbers. And I think where recruitment leaders very often get lost in the whole figures about KPIs and
Yeah.
top line, the vanity metrics.
All
We
right.
pay thousands of recruiters, and we've got thousands of recruiters on our database, and we made 3 million last year, and it's not, no, you didn't make 3 million, that's your
No, you
return.
didn't.
And you might have thousands of candidates on your database, but they're not coded, and maybe you have placed thousands of candidates, but none of them are in the jobs anymore. So I think we very often talk numbers, but we don't actually understand the meaning of them, and I think it's not rocket science what you're talking about.
No.
It's
And
the
it's really enjoyable when you drill
yeah,
down because
yeah,
recruitment is quite a simple industry to account for, right? We don't have stock in warehouses and and distribution costs and all this sort of stuff that can go.
yeah.
So the time for finance people not spent on the complicated accounting side can be spent on the drilling down with with the sales team, with the
Mm.
leaders, and going, we can just discuss one thing this monthly meeting, and let's just discuss, how long were your live jobs on the pipeline for?
Yeah.
Okay, that's not only just a cost issue, that's a BD issue probably for your employees, but
Well, look, why
numbers
we're good
highlight
at jobs we
everything.
can't fill. Totally. I've got a
Yeah.
challenge for our listeners actually. When you've listened to this, I want you to drop me or Kath and Kath, both of us.
Yes.
If you are running your business, whether you've got 3 people, 2 people, I've got 3, you've got 2 or 3, whatever,
Yeah.
whether you've got 300 people, if you're running your business how we're suggesting, which is little microcosms of
Yes.
the businesses within each desk, we want to know about you because actually I'd love to showcase you on the podcast and I'd love to connect you to Kath and I'd like to chat to you as well. Wherever you're based in the world, wherever you're listening to this, if you do this way, I do it with Shannon, right? She runs her own
Yeah.
P&L and she gets, and I'm not, this is no secret because I'll tell a lot of my clients this, she still gets her commission, which is always paid after the rebate, by the way. There ain't no credits being brought back. But at the end of each financial year, we look at her net profit and she then gets a percentage of that net profit. And let me tell you, that girl never negotiates on fees and only works with placeable candidates and jobs, funnily enough.
Right.
And it's just,
And is a live bar.
well, but the thing is, she's not going to earn that going anywhere else. I mean, she could go and
Yeah.
her own, but she'd have all the headache of
Yeah.
her own business, etc., etc. So I'm using Shannon as an example because actually, I think it can be blueprinted on every recruitment desk how I do it with Shannon. And
Yes.
I'm still, as a business, we are still making profit because she's getting a share of the profit. So we're
Exactly. It's
still
a
maintaining,
percentage. It's
and her
um
billings each year, her billings have elevated. So I just think. There's your challenge, guys. I want to know who's doing it. We want to know about you because we think that if we were to spin the recruitment industry back to day one, that's what everyone should be doing. And I think we're at such a, as anyone that's been listening over recent weeks, we're at such an evolutionary stage of the industry. Like I think we're about to go through almost full circle moment back to face-to-face meetings,
Yeah,
back on the phone, having
consultation.
conversations, removing the e-sequencing and all the things that have been ruining the industry basically for the last decade or so. But actually, if we are going to do this and really revolutionize what we are as an industry and repackage it, let's think in business acumen, and that includes financial prowess. And I don't mean doing your qualifications, but understand,
No,
read, balance sheet.
and as you say, Leisha, it doesn't have to be expensive. Just have a meeting for an hour or whatever. But what's key is obviously the openness to learn,
Yes.
and then someone be able to explain it.
Yeah.
Layman terms works so well.
It does. Yeah.
I think
Definitely.
I haven't heard a recruitment business owner speak
Mm.
like you. I can't remember.
No, well, that doesn't say much because I'm quite different anyway, dear. I think but I speak honestly, and let me tell you, I mean, I did a business management course so long ago. I don't think we even did it on computers. It was in the early 90s. I actually did exceptionally well. I got distinctions all the way through, especially in economics, which I just find really bizarre. But we did basic financial planning. We did business management, marketing, HR. It was a full shebang. It was actually a brilliant course. Thank God I failed my A levels, otherwise I never would have done it. But joking aside, it proves you don't need to be a mathematician or an accountant.
Right.
You have commercial awareness, and I think we
Yes.
often underestimate the skills of the recruiters and almost patronize them. That this is not something, right from day one in their induction, their onboarding should include this is what your desk costs every month.
Yeah.
So if your
And
desk costs 8 grand a month, right? You need to make £8,000 in fees, and then anything over that is then classed as gross profit. And
yeah.
because of the commission scheme, this is effectively you'll get a third, I'll get a third, and then a third stays in the pot. What I'm just
Whatever they make. Yeah.
right. Now there is no recruiter on earth that will not think that's unfair. That's fair, that's the model. But what recruiter is not going to then go, I'm going to need to build double that now because I want to be earning that profit, and I want to be
Yeah.
earning the profit because I would still want a job in a few years' time. I just think,
And also maybe if we ask them, not
hmm,
even the newbies, the ones that have been at their desks for however many years, do you fancy having a look at this?
yeah,
Fancy getting involved? You get
yeah,
a percentage of the net profit
absolutely.
quarterly, end of the year, whatever. Do you want to know what because not everyone is just 100% sales, and not everyone's 100%
No,
finance or 100%, marketing. People have transferable skills.
and then the
We're all
client.
diverse within ourselves, right?
Absolutely. And the clients that are trying to boss and draw you, the ones that are trying
No,
to knock your fees down, you're just going to have recruiters going, I'm walking away from that business and I'm going to go and find better clients, or the client that I've done a
yes,
brilliant job for. I am going to
yes,
sit there in front of them and say, I want you to retain me. And if you retain me, you will understand what that will do to your P&L.
yeah, right.
Like, we've done it. We've solved the world, Kath. I knew we would.
Right, recruiters, we've got it.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, listen, if anyone wants to get in touch, I'm sure Kath is more than happy to have confidential conversations with
Yep,
any other founders who find
definitely. I
themselves
love it.
this resonating, because we know that there'll be some that'll go, what are you going on about? But there will be somebody. I always say if it's that one person, connect to Kath. All her LinkedIn information is going to be shared on this episode. How has it been performing on the Recruiters Recruitment podcast? Have you enjoyed it?
I love it.
Yeah.
Nisha, I could do this every week
There you
for
go.
your listeners.
Maybe no,
Do
maybe
a
you should launch
series,
your
do a
own.
series on finance is fun.
Yeah, oh God, there you go. There's your podcast. Right. And I will see you hopefully at the next Women in Recruitment Leadership event.
Well, definitely.
Definitely. And we'll put the
Yeah.
world. Thank you so much for joining me on the Recruiters
Thank
Recruitment.
you for having me.